going. I'm Robin Manrico. I'm the executive director here at the Keweenaw Community Foundation. It's really awesome to see how many people came out today. So thank you so much for attending. We're excited to kick off. This is our first of a quarterly series that we'll be doing. We are looking to hear from nonprofits, from municipalities, from the community, what's helpful to learn about. So please, we have evaluation sheets that I would really love if you filled out so you could help me know what's helpful to you. So really this is an opportunity that we want to provide to the community quarterly for people to come together to learn, but then also have the opportunity to just get to know each other and network. We've been hearing in the time that I've been at the foundation the last few years that there's a really a desired need to have places where nonprofits and different groups can come together, get to know each other, and build partnerships and collaborations. So we hope that this is the start of that, and we're very open to ideas that you guys have. So again, that evaluation sheet or contact us at any time. We are very, very grateful to be partnering Grow and Lead. And I'm going to let Linda introduce herself, who's going to be leading us through the educational component of this, and tell a little bit about their organization and how we're working together. So again, just a very big welcome to you all for being here, and I look forward to the learning together. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Hi there, I am Linda from Grow and Lead Community and Youth Development. And if you don't mind, I'm going to sit down because this is being recorded. And right now, whoever is going to see the recording is going to see my torso. So this is probably better for them. At any rate, so today I'm just going to give kind of a broad overview of the sort of the world of grants. There's a lot that goes into grant seeking or grantsmanship, if you will. And so we're going to touch on some of the kind of the overarching parts of that today. And then hopefully in our future sessions, we'll be able to kind of dig in and drill down and get more specific about different parts of grant seeking, and or if there are other pieces of nonprofit management that you're particularly interested in and feel like the community could use some education or training around that, we're open to doing that too. So a little bit about our organization, Grow and Lead Community and Youth Development. And I'm also here with Macy Johnson, who is on our staff as well. We are a nonprofit. Our vision is for all youth to thrive. Our roots are with the Keweenaw Foundation and Youth Development. We've existed since the mid-80s, and we've morphed and changed as needs around the UP have changed. So at any rate, we are a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits to meet their missions with the idea, and that we know that a robust nonprofit community, an environment with nonprofits is important to having what young people and people of all ages really need to thrive. So we work with nonprofits throughout the UP. We provide training, resources, workshops, education around all things nonprofit. So around nonprofit management, in addition to fund development, strategic planning, volunteer engagement, you name it. We will work with nonprofits so you can do your missions better. So we have quite a few people here, but I think it might be helpful, because this is kind of a networking opportunity too, to just go around the room quickly. And if you could introduce yourselves, just your name, the organization that you're with, and then also, where you're at as far as grant seeking. Are you a beginner to the world of grants? Are you advanced? Have you been, applying for grants and such for years? Or are you somewhere in the middle? That would be helpful for me to know too. So why don't we start over here and kind of work our way around and back up to the front.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Stonitis. I work at Wupperter, and I would say I am a experienced beginner as far as grants.
Hi, my name is Evan Lenise. I work as a GIS planning technician at Wupperter as well. And I'm also somewhere in the middle. It helps apply for some grants, but haven't done it all. I'm working on some.
Tom Wright lives in mine, and I'd say I'm intermediate beginner.
Funky with contracting, construction, and I would say I'm a beginner.
Other people in our collective are way experienced grants. And apply for grants, I would like to know.
I'm Jody Stanford. I'm starting in adaptive recreation. I'm also a board of TCF. So glad to see everybody here today. And I'm not an advanced beginner.
Hi, I'm Sako Nakamura. I'm program coordinator at the district director. I'm a beginner. I'm Jen Todd. I'm here for a bunch of nonprofits. Office in adaptive sports and Keweenaw and my husband's organization. I don't know, doesn't matter. NAKI, there we go. And I don't know, I read a lot of things. My name is Rachel Presley. I'm a planner with the Western UP Planning and Development Region. I have about 6 years. Hello, I'm Doris Kilplo, UP Kids. Most of our work is actually contract, but we'd like to get one grant side thing, so yes, very much beginner. Useful someone and the creation and complete beginner. I'm Jenny Gessler. I work with and I know nothing about that. My right and left hand, Anita Campbell. I'm Anita Campbell, and I'm on Keweenaw County Historical Society board and also working on state. And I think I'm in the middle of it.
I'm Martha Dugdale. I'm on the planning commission for Adams Township and I'm a beginner.
I'm Terry Curley. I'm a trustee for the Village of South Range. I'm also on the Adams Township Planning Committee and also on the Upper Range Museum. And I'll begin.
Okay. Is that everybody? Anybody else?
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for your service in the community for, for serving with nonprofits and such. That's an awesome thing. And I'm kind of glad to hear that a lot of you are beginners, because I'm hoping that you'll get something out of this then, because if you're real advanced, at least maybe this will be sort of a review. And just, a disclaimer here, you're not going to learn all you need to know about grants today. So, but hopefully you'll learn a few things here and there. So, want to start off, let you know that grant writing, it isn't dark and mysterious. It's not even all that difficult if you can follow directions. You can put together a well thought out plan and then write knowledgeably and clearly about it. You can put together a solid grant proposal. Okay. And I would say that the process of putting a grant proposal together is really helpful as you plan any project. It's going to make any project or initiative, what have you, it'll make it stronger because it really forces you to think through the steps to flesh out and articulate a plan for whatever project or service that you're looking for funding for. So it'll help you too, help your organization. Grant writing is a little bit of a misnomer in that the whole process of, finding grants, writing and such, it's a much bigger process than just writing. And writing is probably about 20% of it. And the other 80% is really planning. So, and any plan or any project or program that you're going to be looking at, this starts with a big idea. So, whatever it is that you're looking for funding for, you start with an idea. So there's some questions to ask yourself and, the other folks that you're working with on boards or within organizations or within your group. What is the need for your community? Not just for your program or organization, but what is the need in the community that you want to have an impact on? And it's really important to frame any proposal that you put together that way. It's around the need in the community and meeting that need. It's not about meeting the needs of your organization. Okay, it's that community need. And then is there sufficient evidence of the need? You're going to need to show the need exists, and you need to know that what you're doing is there's a true need, and you'll want to show concrete evidence or data around that need. Hard data, facts, figures, and also anecdotal data, people's experiences, their perceptions, kind of stories. All right. And then, what impact will this project or proposal have in the community? How will it change the community? What will the outcome be? So keep that in the forefront of your minds. And then will the change it brings about be sufficient to the effort and the dollars that are put into it? You want to think carefully about that, and your funders will too. Is it worth the effort? And also, does it fit your organization's mission and move your mission forward? If it doesn't align with your mission, then don't do it. You don't want to just take on a grant or think, oh, they have dollars. Let's go after this. You need to make sure that it aligns very closely with your mission. Okay, and then not only does it need to align with your mission, but you need to be reasonably certain that your organization is ready to take it on, whatever your project might be. Do you have, or can you get the right sources to pull it off? Do you have the people power, staff, volunteers to get the job done? Do you have partnerships? Grantors, I would say always, or at least almost always, will see communities and community entities working together as a strength. Funders don't want to see a lot of different organizations or entities applying to do the same thing in a community. If there are others in the community that are doing similar work, or related work, find ways to work together. That's going to behoove you as far as bringing grants in, but it's just going to make everything stronger. You want to be working together and not like in competition to one another. And then, do you have the additional resources that you'll need to pull this off? And additional resources such as, additional funding sources. There aren't a lot of grants. Well, there may be, but oftentimes grants won't be able to cover all of your expenses in a project. And so you'll have to show that you have additional funding sources. And then also you need to be sure that you're ready as far as your internal processes and controls. So like, accounting policies that you'll be able to manage the fund. Maybe personnel time logs, volunteer policies, those things that you'll need to be able to manage funds and people well. So these are big and important questions to consider, especially with large grants. Basically, typically, the bigger the grant award, the more the funder will want to know that your organization is ready and able to handle it. With the larger grants, there's going to be more financial scrutiny, more reporting requirements. So you want to be sure before you even apply that this is something that you'd be able to handle, that you have the capacity. Okay. And if you don't want to be in a position where you've been awarded this money, but man, now what do we do? This is really hard. So make sure that it's the right time and that you have the right resources in order to take a grant on. Okay. Here we go. And before you decide to apply for a grant, you need to have a strong understanding of the requirements of a grant. They're not one size fits all. They're all different because all funders are different. So this may seem like it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway because you need to read all application materials and guidelines. I really can't stress that enough. Some funders these days, particularly larger funders that put out requests for proposals, will have like informational webinars to see, so you can see what the requirements are, see if it does look like it's a good fit for you. So, watch those, take advantage of those webinars. If it is a large grant, absolutely you need to watch them or you're going to be behind, and some things to look for. Like how and when will the funding come? Is it gonna be like one lump sum at the start of a project? Or is it gonna be on a reimbursement basis? This is kind of a big one. You know, do you need to purchase your items and then submit receipts in to get reimbursed? And that can be very difficult for small, new organizations. You don't have, you know, a lot in the bank. You know, it might not be a big deal if it's a $2,500 grant. But if it's a $2 million grant, you know, to build a community center, you're gonna really have to have your ducks in a row, and you're gonna have to have some financial backing in order to do that, if it's on a reimbursement basis. And also, if you can find out what the reporting requirements are, a lot of times that will be kind of spelled out within the RFP, the request for proposals. That's very helpful when funders do that, so you know what the reporting requirements are right up front. But if they don't, you know, it's not an unreasonable thing for you to inquire about reporting requirements. You know, if you might have to contact the organization and ask, and that's okay too. If you have questions, you know, if things aren't clear, it's okay to, and a good thing, I think, to contact the organization or the funder and ask your questions, get things clarified. Don't assume. All right. So let's talk a little bit about where to find grants. I know a lot of you said you're kind of beginning, and you're probably wondering, well, you know, I don't even know where to look. Well, I would say, look locally, start small, and start local. You know, here the Community Foundation, of course, is a real good place to start in this community, because the community, you know, that's what they're here for, to build the community and to help the organizations that are out there and that also want to help provide what the community needs. Copper Shores Health Foundation, you may all be very familiar with that. The Superior Health Foundation is a more regional entity. They work throughout the UP. They have a lot of grant opportunities, from small to you know, very large projects that they will fund. You know, other family private foundations are a place to start. I'm not sure what, you know, exists in your specific area here, but service clubs too. You know, your Rotaries, Kiwanis, Exchange clubs, Masons. Oftentimes the local units will have funding that they give out, but like the Rotarians, Rotary International, and Masons on a broader scale also do larger funding. They have opportunities, so those are things to look into. Corporate funding, you know, the chain businesses often have philanthropic giving that they do. And again, you know, at the very local kind of store part, but then also they often have a larger philanthropic foundation that you can apply for grants for. So Home Depot, Lowe's. I don't think you have a Lowe's here. There's one in Marquette. Dollar General, Walmart, Kohl's. Yeah, so look at a local level and at a larger or higher level with them as well. And then there are government grants, local, state, and federal, tribal. Yeah, government grants are kind of a whole different ball of wax, not completely different, but very, there's gonna be a lot more financial scrutiny, a lot more reporting associated with them. And if you're brand new, just starting out, one of your first grants is not gonna be for federal dollars, most likely. But there are state associations, like the Michigan Council for the Arts and Culture. Well, it used to be the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs, and now Michigan Arts and Culture Council. They have state level grants that they're competitive grants, but that is something that you can go for and would have a pretty good shot at getting at a statewide level. So those are some places. I should say too, if you have questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand and we'll ask. You can ask, but we'll also have Q&A at the end as well. So like I said, grants are not one size fits all. However, there are some elements that you'll see, a lot of grants have in common. So information that you gather from one proposal, you may very well be able to use it in other proposals. But just be aware that funders ask things in a different order. They may ask for things in a different way. They will give different weights to different parts. So you really need to tailor a grant to a particular funder. Okay. But I'm gonna walk through some of the proposal or some of the elements that you might see in grant proposals or grant applications, actually. So an executive summary, that's basically a synopsis of the project that you're applying for. There'll often be word limits on that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. The needs and the purpose statement describe the need that you intend to impact. So it's kind of the why behind your project or service that you're proposing. And this includes the evidence of the need, that data that backs up your assertion of the need. Program design. And that's really the nuts and bolts of what you'll be doing in your project, the actions that you will be taking to get to your outcomes. So this, along with goals and objectives, are really probably the bulk of a grant proposal narrative, what you'll be writing about. And those goals and objectives or outcomes are especially very important. So that's what you expect to achieve for the population that you serve, the change that you hope to bring about. And funders may ask for short, intermediate, or long-term goals or objectives. Sometimes you're writing a grant, a one-year grant, but you might have a multi-year grant too. So you can expect that they'll ask for your goals and objectives, and it can be short, intermediate, or long-term goals and objectives. The organizational history, your capacity. You know, the funder wants to know that you have the people power, the experience, the skills to carry out the plan and to manage the grant. Timeline, some funders might just want to know, you know, that you're going to have the grants expended by the time that they say they need to be. But others may want more specific timeline of what you're going to be doing by, you know, it might be monthly or, you know, but anyway, just what you're going to be doing and by what time. An evaluation plan, that would be like how you're going to monitor and measure progress. You may be asked to set benchmarks or, you know, what are the indicators of success with the progress or with the project. A sustainability plan. How are you going to keep the project going after the grant period is up? How will you sustain that impact that you're making? That's something that funders want to see. They you know, don't necessarily want you to just have a one and done thing, but this is, you know, how do you sustain it? And of course, a budget is a huge piece of you know, your grant proposal. And the funder wants to know, you know, what you're going to spend the money on, of course, and that it's done in a thoughtful, cost-effective way. So we're going to focus in just a little bit on project planning, which is really at the heart of writing a grant proposal. So I kind of like this. I think we all have a little Calvin in us. So when you're asking for financial support, you really need to have a solid plan that shows the impact that your project will have in the community. And you need to present it in a way that shows the funder that it's solid. So that's that 80% that I mentioned. And, you know, don't be like Calvin. Give yourself plenty of time to complete it, you know, to come up with your plan and articulate it. And it almost always takes longer than you expect in putting together a grant proposal. Fortunately, there's a kind of a cool tool that can help you in your project planning that will help you focus on the impact that you expect to achieve, and that is called a logic model. It's a very helpful tool for planning projects. It kind of has, I think, sort of an intimidating label, but it's not really intimidating. It's a template for planning and implementing and evaluating services. Some funders require that you use a logic model. That'll be part of your proposal, or it might be part of, you know, your ongoing sort of reporting of the grant. I would say all funders will require pieces of it. Okay, it focuses on outcomes, your end results, again, that impact that you hope to make in the community. So this is a very simplified model of a logic model. Okay, and this one is built on a family camping trip. So you always start with the end in mind and work backwards. So you start from the right there. Your outcomes. Again, what is it that you plan to accomplish? The measurable change or impact that you plan to achieve. Okay, so in this instance, you know, it's that family members will learn about each other. They'll build family bonds, and everybody will have a good time. That's what you hope to achieve. That's your outcome. All right, and then then you work, like I said, backwards. What are the activities or the outputs, or in the case of nonprofits, the services? What are you providing? So in the family camping trip model, it would be that the outputs are you're gonna drive to the state park, you're gonna set up camp. And you're gonna cook, play, talk, laugh, and hike. So those are your outputs or your activities, and then the inputs are the resources that you need, that you'll need in order to accomplish, what it is that you want to achieve. So in this case, family members, budget, money, and we're all gonna need money. That's why we're applying for grants. In this case, a car, I would add gasoline, oil, and all those other things that go with a car, and camping equipment. So those are your inputs. So you can use this as your, as a nonprofit, and as you're planning your services and your grant proposals. And this is something that I think might be really helpful to talk about in one of those future sessions that we have, and to dig into a little bit. Well, actually quite a bit deeper. How are we doing on time? Pretty good. So let's talk just a little bit about the budget. Again, that's, a really big part of any grant proposal. Just some basics, know the funder's funding range. What is a reasonable amount to ask? The request for proposals often state this, but sometimes not. Sometimes, if you're approaching a funder that doesn't have, a set grant, then it's, do some research, ask them what are your typical projects, what do you fund? Then follow the funder's budget form, their guidelines. A lot of times, oftentimes, funders will have their own budget or template. They usually don't just say, attach a budget. Some might, but usually they have their own form for you to fill out. They may have a separate budget narrative section where you really kind of detail the expenses and the rationale for the expenses, how the breakdown of that. And if that's the case, if they have a narrative and just the budget form, double check, make sure that everything lines up with one another. You don't want to have things in your budget that, on the budget form that you haven't talked about in that budget narrative. Okay. Pay attention to what costs they will or won't cover. For instance, government grants, at least some of the ones that I've been involved in, they don't cover meals or snacks. I'm not sure why, but that is something that they don't necessarily cover. And if that's part of your project, then you'll need another source to cover that. But yep.
I have a question. If you've got a big project, multiple funders, and what is your recommendation for the budget? Do you do the whole project budget and highlight what you're asking them, that particular funder to support, or will you carve that out into a individual budget?
That's a really good question. It depends again on the funder, what they ask for. I think that if you have the opportunity, it's a good thing to show the overall budget, at least the budget for that particular project, and maybe the overall budget for your organization. So they know what the true costs are.
I would say reaching out to that funder is a very good first step because, I know in many different, me as a funding seeker, not wearing the funding hat, that having those conversations, they can actually sometimes help you. With how they would see it. However, they. But I've seen both where then, when I've done that, multiple funders applying for, and then depending on how you get granted out, then going back and having these conversations.
And I would actually recommend, and this is a little bit different, what Linda just say, only providing organizational budget if requested.
Yeah, agreed.
Right, right.
Because sometimes you get penalized if you have a lot of money in reserves. Not ultimately real, but I've seen that happen.
But yes, I
Don't
agree,
give
you
more
know.
than what they.
Well, exactly. Again, it goes back to follow their directions, whatever they want. Show them what they are asking for, basically.
They often ask right on the budget, you have other funding available.
Absolutely, they
Yeah.
will. Absolutely, they will. Yep. So you do need to be prepared for that. Yeah. Be realistic. You don't want to inflate costs, of course, but you don't want to leave costs out. Again, I think it's good for a funder to know the true cost of the project that you're applying for. And then, yeah, if it's beyond their funding limit, you will need to probably show them that you have other sources to draw from. So, you know, if they can only give you half of the amount that you really need, well, they want to make sure that you can come up with the other half. So a little of writing with impact. Again, I might sound like a broken record, but follow all directions. If you take anything away from this presentation today, let it be that. You know, follow the funder's directions. You know, give them the info that they ask for in the way that they ask for it, in the order that they ask for it. If they have, you know, asked for headings, subheadings and bullets, use them. Do what they ask or show. You don't want to make people who are reviewing your proposal search for pieces. Sometimes they just won't. If it's not in that particular section, then it's like it doesn't exist. You know, you don't want to say, well, see section B for that answer, or think, well, I already covered this somewhere else. Give it to them the way they ask for it, where they ask for it. Okay. And meet their deadlines. And nothing will eliminate, you know, a proposal quicker than a missed deadline. You know, you miss the deadline, you're probably going to be out.
I'll just say on the deadlines too, like, I can recall trying to submit a state grant, but everyone was trying to submit a massive state grant at the same time, and the system was overloaded, and many people were not successful in getting through. So if you are going to be applying for this larger grant, a lot of these systems can't handle everyone doing it at one time, so just maybe it's best to give yourself a little time.
Yep, absolutely. Like I said earlier, it's going to take you longer than you expect. Hook the funder. So what I mean by that is really showing how what you're applying for, you know, your project, your initiative, how that aligns with their purpose and goals, which goes right back to the beginning. You know, you want to make sure that you know, that it is a good match, because they, yeah, all funders, they have their own goals, the reasons that they are supporting projects. So it has to line up. And you're gonna be way ahead of the game if you can clearly show that. A good place to do that is right up front in the executive summary. Hook them. Use short, simple sentences, avoid jargon, acronyms, spell things out. Don't assume that whoever is reading your proposal is gonna know what you're talking about. They might not be in that same field of expertise. So yeah, spell things out, make sure it's understandable. And make sure all parts of your proposal agree. Really be cautious of copying and pasting, like from one proposal to another or from one section to another. Again, you really need to tailor it to that specific grantor and grant. You can use pieces sometimes from other proposals and such, but just make sure that you're really answering the questions that they are asking. Okay. Proofread, have at least 2 other people proofread. I would say set it aside. You think you've got your proposal done, set it aside a little while. And then look at it again with your own fresh eyes, but again, have somebody else look at it too. You want to make sure you have all your I's dotted, your T's crossed. And that it, again, aligns with the funders' goals and that is really spelled out very directly. And finally, just a few other common things that you might be asked for with proposals, and that that you should have ready in your organization, a list of your board members, their affiliations and such, an organizational chart, key staff information, your overall operating budget. As Iola mentioned, you don't have to give that out right away, but you need to have that.
They ask for it, give it, not.
Yep, but you should have that anyway for any purposes. Your 501c3 letter, that you are indeed a 501c3 with the IRS. Your 990 report or an audited financial statement, and letters of support. Again, with letters of support, they need to be tailored toward that grant. Don't, take one that you've gotten from somebody for something else that you applied for, unless it totally fits. You might have to go back to that person and ask them to maybe tweak it a little bit.
I'll just add there too. I actually know the Spirit Health Foundation, if they see that as a template letter, accept that. So some funders are very in tune to seeing templates, letters of support, and don't accept those. So keep that in mind too. When they
So that's a lot. I think it felt like a lot to me anyway. So, questions that you have about anything?
Making sure that your project was sustainable. We work with pretty large programs.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm here, so those are. You obviously can't continue. How do you fix that? That's sustainability.
Well, I would say it kind of goes back to having other funders. I mean, hopefully Trio will continue on, and I think that is maybe more of a special case, but it is good to not have all of your eggs in one basket. that, you know, to show that you have some other means of support other than just the grant, I think is gonna help you. You know, maybe, you know, maybe it's only 1% or 2% of, you know, what the program, the money that you need, but any way that you can show that you have additional support is gonna help your cause.
Perhaps also to your capacity history, like showing that you're successful.
Yes, that's a very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add like an example of, thinking about a program recently about putting hospital equipment into a hospital in Latin. And sustainability part of that, being able to do the maintenance on the equipment.
Okay.
So maybe that's some idea for you, right, on how that organization defines sustainability, right? So if it's, you know, fixed equipment, you can't maintain it, then it's not sustainable. Or you don't have the infrastructure to put that equipment in, like proper electricity. For sure. So that could go towards sustainability.
Yeah, also, training personnel would be another piece of sustainability.
Kind of outside of exactly what they're looking for, but it holds that.
No, that helps, so thank you.
I think just sustainability is one of the things we see the most that's challenging for people is that they have a great idea. And but they don't necessarily know how they would fund it past, especially if it's like an ongoing program, not like a one event. So I would say that it's, you know, even as small grants, we see that as a big challenge that people don't quite have a good plan for that, and that is kind of a red flag for funders, especially if it's something that you're gonna invest a lot of money into, and then it's just gonna kind of close and fail, or, you know, end or whatever. So I just point that out as someone who's looked at a lot of, that's something I think that is very, very.
Yeah, and that goes back to the readiness, you know, do you have, you know, the capacity to keep this going beyond? Yeah.
In the philanthropy world, because is a push to start exploring grassroots entities, which are entities that may not have a strong history of sustainability or funding or whatnot, but those are still important initiatives to be funding and having conversations with and building collaborations with. So I would say, even in the short term that I've been in this field, I hear that about a lot, so I don't think it's possible. I do think that groups like funding initiatives. I just think that having that in your mind and thinking about this, and even if you don't have it fully figured out, you have these like pieces that they know you're thinking about it versus just, oh, you know, I never thought about that.
Okay, so
That's a little more red flaggy.
Even if you're gonna say like, we don't.
We understand we may not have this figured out, however, here are the things we're planning, trying to take to work towards. Yeah, right, here in funders.
Yeah, and think about diversifying your funding, no organization is just going to exist solely on grants. I mean, that isn't a healthy way to live, put it in those terms, or to exist. That, you should have a mix, grants might be a large chunk of how you fund, your ongoing operations. But you're kind of taking a chance on that. If it is, you want to, you have maybe an annual campaign would be part of it. Individual donors is a piece of it. Sponsorships, corporate sponsorships is a piece. So, to sustain your organization, you really need to look at a variety of funding sources, generally speaking.
Things, so for example, Grow and Lead is listed the service they provide that.
Yeah,
raises
that-
revenues.
Okay, I guess I'm thinking specifically non-revenue.
Not.
Yeah, well, it's earned income is another way of saying that, but yeah, if you charge for the services that you provide, that's a source as well. Honestly, sometimes that's a small piece, but it's all those pieces add up. Yeah. Other questions? Right. Well, thank you so much. It's, that was fun.
Thank you, Linda, very much. That was really helpful. So this is just the first conversation we wanted to have about grants, and our plan is for the next two quarterly series that we're going to dig deeper into some of those different topics. So everyone hopefully got an evaluation form. If not, they're on the back table, but it would be very, very helpful to us if you could let us know topics that you need, things that we can help craft to really hone the different pieces of this that could be helpful, and not just about grants. It could be about governance, board structures, it could be about fundraising, it could be about development, it could be about operations, budget making, things like that. So anything really that might be helpful for you to learn as a community, letting us know so that we can work with Grow and Lead and other partners to bring that to you. So please fill that out if you are willing. We just wanted to leave time that people could talk amongst themselves, get to know each other in the room. I did want to also, if there's anyone in the room that has an announcement that they want other people to know about, I also wanted to create a space if that was helpful. If you have any events coming up with your organization, this is a great time to give a shout out on those if anyone has anything, but.
How will we learn about the additional classes?
Yeah.
That you're offering?
So I don't know how you all learned about it, but I'm very happy you did. But we will continue the same way that we've been advertising. So our newsletter is a great way. So we have a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for. We'll also be putting it on our social media, and we plan to kind of keep doing the same thing to get the word out. Probably a press release as well, just to let people know generally. And then if you did sign up too, we can start a news list as well. We do plan to put the recording and the slides on our webpage as well, so that way people can continue to learn from this opportunity, even if they weren't able to be here. So any feedback that you have about the time of day, I was hoping this might be the best, because I know a lot of people are in a volunteer capacity and have day jobs, so we're trying to kind of meet in between. So any of that type of feedback is very helpful, but I just appreciate your time coming, learning all the service that you do. We're very, very fortunate community to have so many people who are so engaged, whether this is your paid position or a volunteer position. So like I said, now we didn't really have anything other formally. We just wanted to create a space for networking and conversations. If you have some, Linda will be here. I'm sure she's happy to answer some questions. I am as well. Sarah Fletcher, who's with us in the front there waving. She actually is the one who does our programs here, so our whole granting program. She's does a lot of continuing education and learning about grants and stuff, so certainly if you have questions, specifically, she can help answer those. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you for your time today.